From Brawn GP's double diffusers to F1 cars going on a diet during the race, Formula 1 has been absolutely riddled with some absolutely wacky and at times genius innovations. Heck, even Ferrari managed to cheat the rules for a good bit and baffle everyone in the process, so stay tuned to find out how they did it. So, here are some F1 innovations that were so good the FIA said, nah, we can't have that. We find ourselves in 2009, when the newest set of regulations was about taming the beast we call wild downforce and making overtaking easier. It was this year that the clever engineers at Brawn GP, along with Toyota and Williams, stumbled upon a genius idea to counter the downforce deficit from the previous season. They called it the double diffuser, a secret weapon that made their cars stick to the track like glue, increasing downforce without really adding much drag at all. It all started with a misinterpretation by Honda engineer Sanayuki Minigawa. He read the regulations in his second language and thought, hey, we can totally expand the diffuser's effective volume. And just like that, the double diffuser craze took off like a rocket. Of course, rival teams were green with envy when they realised they'd missed the double diffuser boat. They protested like angry seagulls at the Australian GP, demanding the FIA ban the contraption and even turn back time to reverse the Melbourne race result. But alas, their protests fell on deaf ears. The FIA gave the green light, somewhat surprisingly, and the double diffuser dream lived on. Other teams scrambled to catch up, hastily developing their own double diffuser concepts. It was like a mad race against time, with designers pulling all-nighters and chugging gallons of coffee to keep their eyes open. For a couple of years, the double diffuser party raged on. It was a wild ride, my friends, with teams pouring their hearts, souls, and enormous amounts of money into this mad invention. But as with all good things that lose the rich guy's money, the FIA eventually closed the loophole in 2011, ending the much beloved era of double diffusers. And now that Brawn GP had set the precedent for wacky inventions, we had another stroke of genius debut on the grid the very next year in 2010. They even gave it a super official project number, RW80, because, you know, secrets love a touch of mystery. Now, let me give you a little context. According to the rulebook, all aerodynamic parts had to stay firmly attached to the bouncy bits of the car, no wiggling allowed. And guess what? The F-duct played by those rules like a champ. How, you ask? Well, the driver himself held the key to unlocking the F-duct's magic. Imagine this, he'd cover a tiny vent hole with his hand or even his knee, and voila! Air would whoosh through a secret vent, gracefully dancing over the rear wing. This airflow would stall the wing, trading downforce for the lightning-fast top speeds on the straightaways. Now, why couldn't the FIA do anything about this? Well, remember that the FIA had banned moving aerodynamic parts on the car, right? Now, guess who didn't qualify as part of the car? That's right, the driver. Yeah, I can't believe that made it past the rules either. It's so devilish. I love it. You know what else I love? The support you guys have given me over the last few weeks. If you're here for the first time, well, I love you too. So make sure you subscribe to show me you love me too. Back to the video. The best part is, depending on the track, McLaren had different setups ready to roll. Monaco, extra inlets and outlets in the main plane, like adding extra nostrils for better airflow. It was like giving their car a turbocharged respiratory system. But why, you ask, did this F-duct extravaganza have only one glorious year? Well, my friends, you can't just rewrite the rulebook overnight. So all the teams had a jolly good time experimenting with this marvel. Some had more success than others. But in the end, they held a vote and decided to ban the F-duct for the following season. I think the FIA was a little disgruntled by how McLaren had managed to baffle them with the F-duct initially, so maybe that's why they said, you know what boys, we're gonna baffle everyone back by making the cars cosplay sharks. These magnificent machines we call F1 cars have reached a point where finding big improvements is like searching for a needle in a haystack. So instead, they're all about those tiny tweaks that add up to greatness. And let me tell you, some of these cars rocked some seriously wild add-ons that could have easily been mistaken for carbon fiber sculptures by the legendary artist Chihuly. In 2017, F1 went through a major rule overhaul, and the designers had a light bulb moment. They thought, hey, let's slap some fins on these bad boys. And so shark fins were born. These sleek beauties adorned the engine covers, working their magic alongside smaller rear wings. It was all about changing up the aerodynamics game. Some teams saw these fins as an opportunity to snatch some performance gains, while others had a different idea. They thought, where can we put our car numbers? Oh, I know, right on those snazzy fins. But alas, the shark fins' time in the spotlight was short-lived. After just one season, they were shown the door. Why, you ask? Well, it seems that not all teams were fans of their striking presence. Some even had the audacity to call them ugly. In a classic Zach Brown moment, the man from McLaren stood up and delivered the knockout blow. He grumbled that those pesky shark fins left little room on the car for those all-important sponsor logos. And we can't have that, can we? So, no more would the cars look like sharks, and no more would the sport of Formula 1 ever be as beautiful. Damn, all this talking is making me thirsty. I sure could use some water. And so could F1 cars, said a certain man at Lotus. Picture this, it's 1982 and Colin Chapman, the mastermind behind Lotus, has a mind-blowing idea to take on those turbo-powered rivals in Formula 1. You ready for it? He decides to stick massive water tanks in his cars. Why, you ask? Well, supposedly to cool the brakes. But here's the kicker. Those tanks could be emptied during the race and magically refilled at the end. It's like having a secret stash of weight-saving goodness. So, here's the deal. Before and after the race, those Lotus cars meet the minimum weight requirements, all nice and legal. But during the Grand Prix itself, they can go on a diet and run lighter. But hold your horses, Lotus wasn't the only one playing this game. Williams and Brabham were like, hey, that sounds like a cool trick. So they jumped in on the water tank bandwagon too. But guess what? They got slapped with disqualifications in the second race in Brazil. Now, you'd think they'd just shrug it off and move on, right? Nope. Williams, Brabham, Lotus and McLaren were like, no way man, we ain't having any of this. So they staged a righteous protest and boycotted the San Marino Grand Prix. They wanted those disqualifications overturned, but alas their appeals fell on deaf ears. It wouldn't really end up mattering anyways, since many teams would go on to arrange turbo engines for themselves by the end of the year. It seemed that this little attempt at circumventing the rules died an ugly death. Lotus and other teams tried circumventing the rules, but Ferrari with their sneaky innovation just went ahead and broke them. In 2019, Ferrari's power advantage shocked everyone during the Spa and Monza races. They had 25 extra horsepower in qualifying, leaving rivals stunned. At Spa, Ferrari zoomed past Mercedes on the straights, taking a huge 1.1 second lead with only a small 0.4 second recovery in the middle section. Charles Leclerc even secured pole position with a mind-blowing 0.7 second lead. Ferrari's dominance at Spa made sense because their car was built for speed, sacrificing downforce. But at Monza, a track favouring speed, Ferrari's advantage should have been even greater. Surprisingly, Ferrari only managed to secure pole position, with Leclerc narrowly beating Hamilton's Mercedes. The race was intense, with Leclerc bravely defending his position against Hamilton and Bottas. Mercedes eventually uncovered the mystery. They learned that Ferrari's advantage at Spa was partly due to Mercedes struggling with their car's setup. However, at Monza, Mercedes found the right configuration and unleashed their full potential. Rumours began circulating, focusing on fuel flow as the possible explanation for Ferrari's power surge. By bypassing the fuel flow limit, a team could gain extra power. Yet, utilising this advantage consistently would mean exceeding the regulated fuel limit of 110 kilograms. Therefore, the smart move would be to utilise the extra power after corners, where it would provide the most significant lap time advantage before drag force impeded progress. The acceleration out of Parabolica was a spectacle to behold. However, this cunning tactic proved less effective at a track like Monza with its fewer corners. The repeated bursts of acceleration that made Spa a Ferrari playground were not as abundant. Thus, at Monza, Ferrari could only rely on their top-end power and low drag advantage without the same frequent accelerations. Now, the burning question remained. What was Ferrari up to? The FIA, in their pursuit of efficiency, mandated that cars incorporate a fuel flow sensor. This device measured the fuel passing through it at regular intervals. Ferrari devised a clever system. When the sensor took its readings, they injected the legal amount of fuel. However, in the intervals between readings, they sneakily added extra fuel for a power boost. More fuel equaled more power, like injecting nitro into the engine's veins. You might wonder why Ferrari didn't face severe consequences for their mischief. From a legal standpoint, and no, I'm not a lawyer, just sharing the scoop, Ferrari managed to exploit a loophole. The rules stipulated that fuel must pass through the sensor, but didn't explicitly address manipulating the fuel flow upstream from the sensor. So, while the FIA expected foul play, they couldn't really prove it. Ferrari had just gone and outsmarted the smartest minds in the sport. Eventually though, in a deal with the FIA, Ferrari disclosed their secret tactics, resulting in minimal consequences. To prevent future trickery, the FIA would introduce a second fuel flow sensor, acting as a vigilant double agent of sorts. Those were the days. Ferrari still had some pizzazz about them. Now, well, I prefer not to speak. You guys really enjoyed the last video on this, didn't you? I saw all those comments, so I thought to myself, the first time was so nice, I had to do it twice. Let me know what other videos I should do next. And if you didn't watch my first video on 10 genius innovations banned from F1, what are you waiting for? Click!